Hey, it's Shane with GotRom.com. I want to talk to you today about ankle impingement or restricted ankle mobility when you're squatting. So some people will squat and they'll just feel like they just come to a hard stop and they can't let their knee track forward over their toes, aka dorsiflexion. They just can't go any farther. Some people will get actually a painful impingy feeling here. So I want to give you a few quick ideas for what to do about that. Now there's a whole host of things you can do for ankle mobility. I'm just going to give you a couple kind of good quick fix kind of ideas. So one thing is, if you're getting an impinged feeling in the ankle, just like when you're getting an impinged feeling in the hip, one of the first things we look at is the tissue quality and range of motion of the muscles on the front of the joint, of the hip joint in this case, or in this joint, or in the case of the ankle joint, we're looking at the front kind of tibialis anterior muscles. So if these get too kind of dense and stiff and brittle, they actually can lead to an impinged feeling here and definitely limit your squat depth and your squat comfort. So what do? The simplest place to start is with a lacrosse ball, and you're just going to get it, there's a bone right here, but just lateral to that, there's a bunch of meaty tissue kind of up here that you can soften up, which has a pretty dramatic downstream effect on your ankle range of motion. So what I do is I put the ball on the ground, I hook this foot back here on top of this other leg, and then I kind of lean out on that tissue right there. And I just kind of slowly steamroll up and down. If I find kind of a lumpy spot, I'll just hang out there for a little while, breathing and relaxing. I find for me that I need to kind of get kind of like an angle on it. It's not just coming straight pressure kind of anterior to posterior, but I'm coming in a little obliquely, a little bit at an angle with the pressure. So it takes a little bit of practice to do that, but sometimes I kind of will lean out to the side and then pressure in and kind of roll even sideways or up and down. Or if I find a trigger point like right there, I'm just going to contract all the muscles in my shin and then relax them and let it sink. I also take big sighing breaths, which allows me to kind of become more dead weight and kind of relax onto it. So you could spend a few solid minutes working on this. Another little pro tip for you is if you have the quad baller tool, this part of it actually fits very nicely in that same region of your shin. And you want to be careful. There are nerves deep in here, and if you start to feel some tingling or numbness in your foot, like anywhere else in your body, it's just your body saying, hey, back off a little bit. So you back off a little bit. But you can put this on the same spot. Again, I hook my foot on top of this other one. You got to kind of finagle it to get just the right spot. And then you breathe and sink and let it sink in. Find different angles of pressure. For me, I find that the worst of it is typically from here to here. You might find something different for yourself, but this is usually the most kind of meat that you can dig into, and it'll give you good improvements in your range of motion downstream. So if you have the quad baller, use this. The other thing is the tissue on the back, your gastroc and your soleus, your calf muscles. If they're too stiff and brittle from running, jumping, being an athlete, standing on your feet all day, for whatever reason, they can also cause that ankle impingement and definitely cause limited ankle range of motion. So I've done other videos where I've laid a barbell out on the floor, elevated it on little 5-pound plates, and then done this kind of stuff. This is kind of traditional ways of working on your calf tissue. You can use your foam roller, you can use your quad baller, whatever you have. My personal preference is a barbell, or something that I do in my own practice is I've got this tool here. This is the Reflex Roller by US Jacqueline, just some little known company that makes kind of machine massagers. It's supposed to be for your feet, but I actually use it for my neck and my calves and my shoulders and other things. So you can put your calf muscles on top of this thing. It's not plugged in right now, but if I turned it on, it would start rotating in place. And that's like having a barbell on all this dense tissue back here, and it's just repetitively rolling and softening all that up. So that's really, really good. I like to kind of get this kind of an angle so that I'm getting kind of this inner kind of Achilles tendon tissue, which seems to really be junky for me. You may or may not have the same experience. but I'll soften up the front, I'll soften up the back, and you can do any particular calf stretches that you like as kind of a finisher. But one that I don't think I've demonstrated before is to, if you can on the ground, just get into kind of a squat position on one side, and then try to lean your chest into your thigh and push this knee forward as the other leg maybe comes behind you in this kind of position. And I use my chest to push this forward. I will allow my heel to come off the ground a little bit. That's fine, as long as I'm feeling a low calf stretch. And then I'll breathe and relax, or I'll contract, relax by stepping, like I'm stepping on the gas pedal of my car. I step into the floor like this, hold that contraction, and then relax and let my heel sink a little bit more towards the ground as I let my knee track a little bit more forward. If you can't kind of manage that on the ground, it's a little bit easier to have an elevated surface where you can put your foot up like this. Again, my chest is going to push against my thigh, and it pushes me into dorsiflexion. I'm trying to close this angle down. I'm trying to get more dorsiflexion and then let my heel drop down. You can hold on to the table or the box or whatever you're using, and then breathe and relax. It's very, very subtle, the changes that you experience here, but you'll notice it when you squat. You can also do co-contractions where I'm both stepping on the gas pedal and at the same time I'm trying to pull my toes up to my face. So I'm kind of contracting every muscle in and around the ankle is what it feels like. And then on an exhale, I relax, wiggle around, and just try to slowly close this angle down a little bit. When you're done doing all that, retest your squat, see how it feels, and see if you have less ankle impingement. Yeah.